Welcome to News Game Plus. I'm Doomy, and I'm here with New Game Plus executive producer Jason O'Callaghan. Welcome to another podcast, and you're going to talk about a certain game today, aren't you?
Yeah, like there is a big embargo, like an restricted embargo. So let me be clear, we got a copy of Last of Us 2. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to admit to that now.
Yeah,
I'm literally reading the embargo while I'm talking to you.
yeah, you said a little bit, but not much until a few days
Yeah,
after this.
we're okay to confirm a review copy starting from the 26th of May, so that's nice. I posted
Yeah,
a screenshot of
well,
the game with the boot, no images of videos. All right, cool. Yeah, so
well,
yeah.
I can say, can I leak this that you've been telling me it's good?
Look, I again,
Am I allowed to leak that?
yeah, there's only certain things I'm allowed to go into, so I can't go into details in this one. And basically, how I'm going to do it, just for reference, we'll have a chat today about some of the things, the reason I think that it's good. I want to then later on,
So
you
it's
know,
not a review. I want to make that
yeah,
clear.
no, it's not a review. It's a preview of a certain section that I literally happen to be in at the moment. So I haven't finished the game. I'll be up front. Then I've got a review that'll be out hopefully for Friday, and then I've
Yep.
got
Look forward to that, everybody. Just go
yeah.
newgameplus.tv because Jason has been playing this and he will have a review the moment
Yeah, the
it's
moment,
allowed.
yeah, and then the 22nd of thing I think is when I'm allowed to talk about spoiler shit, and I'm not sure if I'm meant to actually tell you that, but that is the thing. That was again, I'm fine with that because I think that gives people enough time, and I think that it means that I can just go ham on the spoilers
Well,
because there's a lot of stuff I want to discuss. But where I'm at the moment, now one of the news articles you brought up a while ago was like that you can kill dogs because they have hunting dogs they send after you.
still not okay with that. I don't like it. But
Well,
anyway,
but it fits the world, unfortunately. You know what I mean? Like it's tough.
uh,
They're all trying to find out who's killing their friends.
are there
Um,
are there puppies somewhere near one of the places I can go back and just get a puppy whenever my dog dies?
well, you don't have a personal dog. You don't have one.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
they're hunting dogs. Like they're all Malinois or they're all German Shepherds. They're all like hunting dogs, specifically designed to take you down, and they will kill you if you don't stop them. They'll kill you. It's as simple as that. And because they're dogs, they can get in under crevices that other people won't climb under. They can sniff your trail, so like you can be chased and stuff like that. It's tense and it's full, and it adds that other level because the problem with fighting humans in this game has always been, even in the old one, is that you can think like a human. Oh, they're going to flank me. Okay, they're coming up this side. I can throw a molly there. But now you got dogs. Now you got these things that'll rush you, like just in the same way that when the zombies, you've got the I forget what they call the runners. You got the clickers. You know what I mean? Like you know that as much as runners are awful, you got to kill the clicker. You got to kill the clicker because it'll one hit you. You know what I mean? Like you might be lucky enough to get one hit away to stop it, but it's not
yeah.
going to stop. It's going to keep coming. And so, as much as you want to avoid all these other ones, it's the clicker you got to take care of. And so in this, it was always a case of like you might have people with guns and they'll flank you, but it's a human mindset. It's easier to adapt to that human mindset than it is the alternative. And so having the dogs adds that really hardcore element to it. And at the moment, I'm kind of in between. Basically, where we've seen basically the two clips they've shown. So they've shown like the religious cult, and they've shown thing, and I'm in the in between point of that where it shifts from one to the other. I don't know. I think a few of the gameplay things have been tightened up. They've added a few things. They've added a few things at work and a few things that the big thing, like if I can really, the one thing that I want to kind of give people the idea of is the game is super customizable. So like, let's say you, for example, have a like my thing is I won't play games with auto aim. If I have the option to turn off auto aim, I will turn it off. I will turn off lock off. I will turn off auto aim. And I'd like to think, as much as I'd like to think it makes me sick and give me credit, I just don't enjoy playing auto aim games. Whereas like playing Max Payne 3 on hard on Xbox was great. Like I loved it because it was so tough to get through, but it meant that I earned it. And the problem with it is you've got survival horror ammo. You've got no ammo. So you miss one shot, it's one of the 7 bullets that you have. That's it. You don't have any more than that 7 bullets. You might get someone, you kill them, and they'll only give you one or two each. You know what I mean? So it's like the mindset really has to be, holy shit, I have to conserve ammo. And so you have to play that guerrilla style. So the only thing so I put it on normal difficulty, and the only thing that I changed was I changed the ability for enemies to see you. That's the only thing that I lowered out of the five toggleable options that you get for that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't hate that. I don't hate the idea that I can turn up how good or bad my allies are. I can turn up how much how resilient I am. I can turn up how many resources I get. I can turn up, there's different elements to what you can turn up or down. And I didn't feel like turning it all the way down to easy, but as someone who's playing without lock on, it's tough because it's not like you have bullets. Max Payne, you have 50 bullets in the clip, like 50 bullets in the clip, 30 bullets in the clip, another 50 on you. So it's like whatever, you miss a couple of shots, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, you'll always get the next one. But in this, to fit it more, I just didn't feel it right to play auto aim. And that is the one thing I'll give the game, is it draws you in and it lets you kind of play it your way. Like, there's accessibility options, there's like, they want as many people to play it as possible. And they've gone about that, I think, the right way. Like, they haven't nerfed anything, they've just given you more options. And there's one thing I'll always be a fan of, that's more options. It's one thing Nintendo got wrong in the Wii U era, where they're like, oh, but everyone wants to use roll on the Wii U controller to do things. I'm like, nobody wants to use roll. Like, and
Wii, remember those?
Yeah.
Sonic and the
and the Donkey Kong Country, like, little kids might want to do that, and that's great. Like, good on them. But no one else wants to do that. I promise you, no one else wants to do that. And yeah. So look, from the point of view of the very little I'm allowed to say, it's tense, it's good, it's doing with the story what I'd hoped it would do. But obviously, I won't go into any detail in any way. Like, my biggest concern has always been, how do you resolve Ellie and Joel, and I think they're doing a good job of that. But beyond that, I think it's 5:01 on Friday. Hopefully, I should have it up, and if not, I'll have it up within a couple of hours of that. So.
Well, if you're listening, get on to newgameplus.tv after 5:01 Friday, and Jason's been playing this, and he's been given a workout. Now they did announce, they have said a few things publicly, so I don't have to put these through the non-disclosure.
Sure.
So the games are like 25 to 30 hours long.
Yeah.
That's actually a decent amount. There used to be a big fuss about length of games, so they were padded with useless shit. But
always the argument for me is, does it feel like it outstayed its welcome, or does it feel like it didn't meet its potential? Like, did it need more time? Did it need less time? I don't necessarily care how long it takes, as long as it fits what it's going to do. And I think this game's it's tense enough without being too tense. It gives you moments to reflect and ponder the world that you're walking through, which is what this game does. So yeah.
Have you ever played a game where you just didn't want to end? I get that every so often.
Yeah.
I almost don't want to do the final level because I just liked it so much.
I did. It took me 5-6 years after the end of Battlestar Galactica to watch those last 2 episodes. That's all I'll say. Like, I literally watched everything up until like the last 2 episodes. I didn't even know what the last episodes of Battlestar Galactica were.
You didn't watch Daybreak?
I can't say them in my house because my housemate's watching it at the moment. So I can't actually say out loud what it is. But all I can say is that
it's the 2003 one, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I also, same with The Shield. The Shield was the only other TV show that I just didn't watch the end of, and I finally watched it the other day because it was on Stan. And but yes, I definitely understand that. Like, I'm a shocker for it, where I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this ending. I'm not convinced they can do it justice. And luckily, in those 2 examples, they do it justice. But yeah,
I never watched The Shield, but in Battlestar Galactica, the Daybreak Part 1 and 2 was Daybreak 2 probably went too long, but. Yeah. I've never seen all the threads in a 3 or 4 year series just culminate together just so well. It just, and especially Starbucks is just, and when it first came out, I remember when they said Starbucks a girl now. That was sort of like the early days of these things.
Yeah.
I remember going, what did
that was Richard Plant originally, wasn't it? He was Starbucks.
No, it was Face from 18.
Yeah, that's right. My bad. Yeah. That's Richard Plant, isn't it?
As Richard Hatch was.
Richard Hatch. Sorry, Richard Plant was fucking Survivor. Doesn't matter. I forget what I'm saying.
Good idea. But it was anyway. It was Face from 18. But no, the new Starbuck in this new series just nailed it, and it actually ended up being about her the whole series. So it's really good. Yeah. Now Daybreak 1 and 2 just awesome. Anyway, look. The other thing with Last of Us, now they have said publicly that there's over 60 accessibility options, and you talked about a few tweaks you can make, but these also talk about people with low vision or even blind players, which I'm guessing they've played with the sound there. That'd be interesting. But they are sort of like the antagonist, the antagonist.
The antagonist. Yeah, they're like
the fungus people. What the hell? The clickers and that. They're all blind as well. Yeah. So that'd be interesting.
It's an interesting come together. Like, if you think of it in that viewpoint, it is that thing of like, this game based on the audio design, based on all that kind of stuff. It would be interesting to play like that, and obviously people with sight, like their standard default tries to account for sight where possible. But yeah, a lot of this is for especially low vision, no peripheral vision, like all that kind of stuff, all those conditions. There's lots of little options you can make. Some of it is, I would actually say some of it is borderline, like, without making the obvious joke, like learning disabilities and stuff like that. There's some stuff that makes it super easy.
They actually say that. One of the things they said is they said it's also they've got tweaks for players with low motor skills,
Yes, yeah.
which is awesome news for video game journalists.
Yeah.
So,
That was the obvious joke. Come on, man, we're avoiding that. But
I've been waiting to say that for the whole day. Come on,
but it is one of those things, like, because that's always the problem is when you're telling a really complex, heavy story like this. Like, I've had it in the past with, a friend of mine had MS, and he just it struggled more and more to kind of just do it. And it's not the same when someone else is watching. Like, as much as I was like, yeah, you're happy to watch, like, whatever, but it wasn't the same as them enjoying it themselves, or feeling like they're invested. Because the one thing video games have over every other medium is interactivity, and if you remove that interactivity, it's just a movie. Yeah.
I think the selection they've made for the other ones you've talked about, I reckon that's aside from the game, that's really cool, and that's where look we got this tech. I'd like to see it take one more. There's something I've always wanted to see video games do. There are parental settings in consoles, so you can set things. I'd like, because Last of Us 2, I don't think it's spoiling much to say it's pretty gory in parts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've seen the trailers, like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the I actually would like take this another level because they're allowing for different different abilities for different people. Use the parental settings in the console to change the amount of violence. And if you want, there's no sex. If there's sex in the game, with that as well. But the violence is the thing that I think gets that's just something that's over the top in this game. So
I would say no, only because I think it revels in it. It needs it to sell the gravity. I know what you're saying normally, and I get it, but I think that it doesn't sell the world hard enough if you don't really see the gurgles, and you see the gurgles. Like,
I reckon just tone it down.
You're getting old. This is some boomer shit. Like,
you say okay, boomer to me. No, I'd like to see that, but I think it's awesome. I'm actually, as funny as it would have been to hear that the game was garbage. The fact that you're playing it and saying it's good, and that's what you've been saying since you first got your hands on it, and you were also, we've been public on the podcast. You were also kind of wondering. I'm actually happy for that because a lot of people are going to buy it, and it would have been bad if everybody went out and bought it. All the Sony fans that were going to unconditionally buy it, and it was crap. So I'm actually glad. I mean, I don't have to still like it, but I'm glad.
Like I said, I'm interested to see how it resolves itself fully. Again, I couldn't talk about the ending even if I'd seen it. So I've kept myself reasonably spoiler free, all that kind of stuff. It will be interesting to see how it resolves itself because I can see where it's heading, and they've hinted at it through like a lot of the trailers and stuff like that. There's bigger bad wolves out there. Is all it is. It's like you think you're the big bad wolf. There's bigger bad wolves out there, and that's kind of where it's heading towards. So I'm interested to see how it goes. We'll go from there. But I don't know.
From the spoilers I'm aware of, I just hope the team doesn't get taken off after this and to make a Marvel video game.
You're still salty about Crystal Dynamics. Was it Crystal Dynamics? Yeah, it was. Yeah, Eidos. Yeah.
Was it Eidos? It was. Anyway, by the way, I remember Dirk Benedict was Starbuck, the original Starbuck.
That's right. Hatch was Apollo.
Yeah, Richard Hatch was a player and he was in. Anyway, now, all right, cool. Next one. So Last of Us 2, like I said, newgameplus.tv. Keep an eye on that because Jason is going to go nuts because what he said off air, he can't say on air. But you want to hear it. He's going to do a video. You want to hear it after 5 o'clock Friday. I think it is when the embargo drops.
I'm hoping to have something up by then. It's just going to come down to, again, there's certain things I'm allowed to talk about, not allowed to talk about. They want the original reviews to be pretty spoiler free, and then kind of once the game releases, you can do your spoilery version of it, if you will. So I'm happy to meet people halfway. I mean, we joke about the games industry and stuff like that. If someone, if a company says to me in good faith, we don't want you to spoil it because we want people to enjoy it, and here's where we think that, from this point onwards, it's fucking open slather, go nuts. Now, I think it's a little bit too long. I think in 3 days' time, a lot of the people who have been, going ham. I mean, your Twitch chats are going to be fucking nuts. So just avoid Twitch chat. You know what I mean? Like, they're just going to be full of them because, that's the crowd that draws. So, Yeah,
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 blocking on Facebook and that from
yeah,
doing all the
all that
Star
fun shit.
Wars fans did when Han Solo died.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What? When? Really? Yeah.
Too soon, man.
Yeah, too soon. But I mean, look, the argument I would make is I kind of didn't care about. I mean, I'm not big on spoilers anyway because, as in, I don't care about them because I still think it's how you tell the story. If you were worried about this game because of what the spoilers have told you, these snippets of thing taken out of context deliberately by people in bad faith, like it's not the same. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not. It's you know,
On the internet.
yeah, on the internet. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like bad faith arguments on the internet. Who would have
Do
thought?
people do that?
Yeah, I know, right? But that's what I mean. Is like I don't think it's fair to judge it by when you haven't experienced it yourself. And I think that this is, look, at the moment, like you've got to wonder what else is going to come out in a quiet year like this to knock it off because it's going to be on so many people's Game of the Year lists.
Yeah,
But
yeah. The timing though is normally the game of the year comes out in about 3 months' time. Because
yeah, usually, yeah. But I mean,
first 6 months are hard.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, well, even Red Dead was August or something, wasn't it, originally? I think so. Like, like I'm trying to think of the big ones. Wolfenstein was early in the year. That was pretty sure that was early. Anyway, moral story is you can do it, but I think in this year where there's going to be nothing around it, I think you're going to find a lot of people are like, if there wasn't a console launch this year, there'd be no games coming. You wouldn't do it. Like you might release your indie game. It would be a good time if you're an indie or a small developer to start releasing games. Because
Actually, there's something I was going to bring up about that later.
yeah.
That's
Well, let's move on. I've spoken about it now for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, no,
so,
and I can tell you anybody listening, he's been talking for about 5 hours before the podcast started as well. So, no, to keep an eye on the website, newgameplus.tv for when Jason's finally let out of the pen here. Just get nuts. All right, cool. Now we got okay. Now some other gaming news. Apparently, other things have been happening. 300,000. It's up to now. Nintendo Network IDs were breached in April by people who were getting details and trying to buy. Well, you go for the start, but then I'll say what they were doing with it.
Yeah. Originally, it was 160 that they announced in April, and I think it's been 300 all up since. So it's nearly doubled since they had the initial one. And I mean, Nintendo Online infrastructure amount. Do you know what I mean? Like it's an ongoing meme for a reason.
Yeah, well, they've. I mean, they might have the Liberal Party managing their internet there. It's just so bad. Or is it not? But no, they say basically, from what I understand, you might know more. The credit if they got any credit card details, they were used to buy V-Bucks in Fortnite.
Yeah.
Which makes you go, what the hell is all being hacked by Fortnite players? But there's actually a reason for that, isn't there? And it's like that place that was selling cheap games.
Yeah, like people buying Steam games, gifting them, like, stolen credentials, buying a Steam game, gifting it, and then I'm not sure if it was G2A, so I don't want to say them. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but I also don't want to get myself into trouble for not being correct. But it was one of those kind of selling sites that was on selling games, and it was known that they were doing stolen codes. A lot of the more quote unquote legit ones, what they're doing is selling different countries. So what they'll be is like Argentina's got it on sale at the moment for X amount, and you just buy it through them using the Steam code so they'll have an account that buys it, gifts it to you, you put the code in, you get it, done. You know what I mean? Like Merry Christmas, you're sorted now.
I mean, that's playing the game, but the stuff where you credit card and buying V-Bucks, or it's like the tax office iTunes scam. Yeah. It's basically laundering through a way that can easily be on-sold. I mean, the old days is something to fall off the back of a truck and some guy'd sell it at a pub.
So someone to drive past with a set of speakers. I mean, that you grow up in Dandenong, it happens all the goddamn time. Hey, you want to buy some brand new Kenwood top-line speakers? And you're like, I mean, sure, but 200. But these are worth more than $200, mate. You know what I mean? Like,
years ago, a guy goes over, opens a bit of his car, goes, "I got all these camera equipment in here. Do you want to buy any?" But what the hell? So anyway, look, that should happen. But see, if you're getting V-Bucks or you're getting iTunes cards, if it's somebody that's claimed from the tax office, these are basically laundering the money into a way, stolen credit card details into a way that can easily then be on-sold to somebody else. And Fortnite V-Bucks being something that people will buy, and then basically the money's then a bit harder to trace. Not impossible.
The only thing I would say there, the only difference I would add a little bit there for context is I think with a lot of people laugh, like, why would the tax office ask you to get gift cards? Why would people buy that? Like, why would they buy it with iTunes? Ha ha ha. It's because the people who they're targeting, and it's usually, they've just got their permanent residency or their, whatever, and they'll threaten them their visa, or they'll threaten their business. And even if they're doing nothing wrong, you don't want that kind of like thing. You might think you're doing everything fine, and then they'll find some technicality they got you on, and you're on a boat. And if $500 will get those people to just go away and never do it. And yeah, you're taking the risk that they could just hold it over you. But 9 times out of 10, these people just want their iTunes cards and they want to get gone because they don't want to make it a big deal. So that's when people say, "Oh, how can people fall for it?" It's not that they're falling for it. It's just that the risks of not like believing them outweigh the rewards of believing them. So it's better just to pay the money and hope that they go away.
Yeah, or like the people who send you emails saying we videoed you having a wank on your computer, send us Bitcoin.
Yeah. I mean,
So
and that happens all the time. And again,
does that happen to other people as well? Hopefully,
part of it relies on people believing it. Do you know what I mean? Like Nigeria. There was an article I read the other, like the Nigerian prince emails, quote unquote. They rely on the bad grammar. They rely on that because it was too perfect. Like the smart people pick up the fact that it's not perfect. Like if this was an email from Netflix, why are they using the wrong there? Do you know what I mean? So the people who can pick grammar, the people who are smart enough to go, this is bullshit, get weeded out straight away. And you get the people who go, oh my god, my Netflix account, and then they'll click through and then they'll put all their details in and they'll wonder why they got caught. That's who they want. Like they want to target the vulnerable people, and that's either they lack the education or the knowledge, or there is something about their precarious living situation that they don't want to come out. And that is how these people prey on vulnerable people specifically. Like the government will prey on normal people, but these scammers will wait for the vulnerable people and prey on them.
yeah. Well, Microsoft released a thing a little while ago, a couple of years ago, about the those scams, and they were basically saying that yes, they do look stupid because they don't want their time wasted with smart people. They'd rather go straight to the gullible people because they're a lot better value for money on their side. Back on the Nintendo one, the whole thing was basically if you had your credit card stolen, they were laundering money into Fortnite so they could sell that to somebody else. What I would always recommend people do, and I know you do this, Jason, get any account attached to a credit card and any of your social media accounts as well. Enable two-factor authentication as soon as possible. Cannot stress this enough. Also, make a copy of your recovery codes. Don't just ignore that bit where you got recovery codes, just in case your phone goes. What two-factor authentication does is, as well as your password, you also need usually a 6-digit code off an app on your phone or
a text message or something like that. Yeah.
Now the text message is probably better because then if you have a new phone, as long as you've still got your phone number, you're okay. With the app, it's a pain if you get a new phone. You've got to transfer everything over. But the point is that you've got that device with you, which is a second layer of security. So somebody can have your password. They can crack it. That's not too hard.
Yeah.
And they can still try and get in, but they'll get stopped at this two-factor authentication point where it says now enter the 6-digit code we just SMS'd you, or you get your Google Authenticator app or your Microsoft Authenticator app, and they can't go any further, even with a correct password. And that's something I cannot stress enough. Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter do it. Nintendo does it. I assume Sony does it. I haven't done anything with Sony's online stuff for a while, but look, all the major tech companies do. Enable two-factor authentication on every single one of your accounts, especially anything attached to a credit card, immediately. I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah, I'm literally doing it at the moment. I got an email from Centrelink as we were talking, and now I'm going into my inbox just to double check that everything's hunky-dory. So literally as I was talking, I got an SMS from like the government saying, hey, here's your two-factor authentication code. So anything important like that, I always have two-factor on. If I don't mind losing the information, then I just let it go. Like if it's a burner email or like a fake email or whatever, I don't care. But yeah, anything that's potentially going to really fuck you want to make sure that,
do it. I get emails saying they're going to cut off my pension, which is funny because I'm not on a pension. Scammers are everywhere. There's everybody's out there trying to make a living, and scammers trying to make a living that way. Enable two-factor authentication, you'll be a lot safer.
Yeah.
All right. Now, next one. You got anything to add on that?
No. That's all. That all makes sense to me.
Let's see. All right. Now, actually, I saw a thing that Xbox got a new app on PC. which is not like the old one. They've taken a bit out, but it's mainly focused on the store. But basically, apparently, it allows mod support on a handful of titles, which I thought was pretty cool because I like playing with Steam's mod support, which is really, really nicely integrated. There's only a handful of titles, so it's only early, it's only beta. But something I remember now, do you remember in the early days of the Xbox, do you remember mention of mod support on the Xbox?
Yeah, that was many moons ago.
Yeah, I remember that never happened because at the time I thought that's pretty cool. I don't know how you do them. I don't know how you'd write them, but maybe one of the articles coming up soon might have some light on that. But yeah, that reminded me of that, and I thought mod support on a console would be awesome because like I said, Steam is a Steam, not Workshop, Steam, whatever the Steam one is. Just playing
It's
around with
Steam
that,
Workshop, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it's Steam Workshop.
yeah, it's. I play around with that every so often. It's really good fun. And sometimes you take a game that you kind of enjoy and you just like, change your character to something else from another game. It's like, yeah, it's one of those little things that just makes it fresh again. You go and play.
Yeah.
But I am surprised I understand, modding's not the same on a console, but I am surprised for something like it hasn't made its way on.
But Bethesda's always made the joke that they're going to, they've always supported mods and all that kind of stuff. And we see how that's going at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
There was a nude mod for Skyrim where you can make all your characters nude. That was kind of funny. Not quite what you think. It's not quite. It wasn't as good as I was hoping. But yeah, no. Some mods can be kind of amusing. Some mods can be like downright entertaining.
Yeah.
Where you keep that sword?
Yeah. Look, I mean, and there's always going to be weirdos doing that. So I wonder how they're going to curate the content.
Like, that was me.
Yeah. I like it is going to be that thing because obviously, like Forza has cars and stuff like that. So I guess it's relying on community moderation. Because realistically, like a car with a swastika is not going to last long. Just any report that flags it is going to
The internet will show up at some point. But also, I suppose when you say that, maybe that's the point. Maybe if you can mod cars and too much, then maybe you don't buy them. So maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm happy to accept that there's definitely... Look, I don't know. I'm good on them for embracing it because I think it's something they're going to have to do, especially... And they're obviously trying to amalgamate PC, Xbox, and, like, Xbox. Like, they're trying to make it a singular brand name. Like, so good on them, but like, I just wonder, and I guess the nice thing with that is how they figure that out is good. Like, I want it to be something that they do, and this is what we've said previously. Is like, it seems like they've got a plan. It seems like if nothing else, they're working towards a plan. You may not like that plan. You may not like backwards compatible games or cross saves or cross whatever for whatever reason. That's up to you. But it just seems like Microsoft has a plan on that stuff where Sony just doesn't. Like, Sony is scrambling at the moment. I don't know. I just don't see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see.
Well, I actually that is a great segue into the next thing I had here. Literally the next thing on my list to talk about, and that is, there was an article in Wired with Phil Spencer.
Yeah.
So let's try to get that right. So there was an article in Wired, and Phil Spencer was talking about basically the future of the Xbox isn't just the console. And a few people on groups were like, haha, there's Sony's for hardcore gamers and that. But he was basically talking about, the Wired article was light and very, very shallow end of the pool stuff. But basically, if you're playing Fortnite, it doesn't really matter what you're playing it on, right? So it can be a phone, it can be a console, it can be a Switch, or whatever, right? And it's just... And that's a simple game, but he was effectively talking about that model where you have everything. It can be a console, and he actually said everything is a console, and it's actually about the TV. And I thought, the ghost of Don Matrick.
Yeah.
Moment, TV sports, but yeah. So I thought that was you talk about the direction that Microsoft's going. It definitely, from this article, is effectively everything that can play a game is an Xbox, and that's pretty much what he was saying. Everything's an Xbox if it can play a game.
Yeah.
And so their strategy is that Xbox being a brand that goes across hardware
platforms,
and everything.
Yeah.
Platform, yeah. It's a pity they still don't have their own phone. That would have been really freaking handy, Microsoft.
There was Phil Spencer said the other day that their big focus at the moment is Game Pass and not necessarily new hardware. As in, not that they're not focusing on Series X, but to them the bigger long-term plan is Game Pass. So just don't be surprised if they work out a deal. If they work out a deal with Nintendo to have Game Pass on Switch and it's select titles and it's certain indie titles and they do a deal. Like, I tell you right now, I don't know what Sony offers anyone. I at that point, I just genuinely do not understand
Last of
these
Us
people.
too.
Last of Us 2 is
Yeah.
legitimately it, like those exclusives, and when the next exclusive after this is Ghost of Tsushima, and I think that's another one they're going to send out to die. They sent Days Gone out to die. I think they're sending Ghost of Tsushima out to die because they have just not. I haven't heard anything about it. They're just not pushing it. And that's always a worry for Sony because all they do, they're a marketing company first now. So, yeah.
Well, they've got the real now. Link to the last one, the Xbox Series X June reveal has been delayed to August. Everything's been delayed now. They say coronavirus. Really, it's because how the hell are you going to get into the news cycle? This current environment, I don't know. There seems to be a little bit going on in the world.
Yeah.
Slowing down. It's been quite an interesting year. Those Mayans were
Yeah,
they
well, yeah. We've all been dead for 8 years. Yeah.
you're out by 8 guys. So, but no, so basically, nobody's going to get any airtime, especially not normie media, which is what they want. So Microsoft's delayed the Xbox Series X reveal. Now, the PS5 reveal is still apparently coming on the 12th, which is Friday, which is probably going to be
I'd heard they were pushing it back.
again. Okay, well
Yeah.
there you
Hang
go.
on.
Yeah.
Xbox.
Yeah, it just yeah. Nobody can get out. You cannot cut through this news cycle. This news cycle right now is so. Oh God, it's over the top. It's exhausting. That's a word. It is absolutely exhausting. So if you're going to launch a console, how do you get anyone's attention outside of the gaming community? And
Yeah.
that's Sony and Microsoft have right now.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear. I think I'm gonna search. Like keep talking, but I'm just gonna have a look and then come back.
Yeah, pretty sure. Okay. All right. Now another Sony
Yeah,
one. Just
yeah.
quickly now.
Xbox Game Pass more of a priority than selling consoles is one of the ones I was mentioning. I'm trying to find it now. See
Okay.
if I can spot this thing.
Just gonna
I
read
can't
it.
see it, but I heard that they were pushing something back to August. The problem is it's like, but it's linked to the Xbox Virtual. Yeah, right. Yeah, I think there's something. One of them's getting pushed back to August, and I'm not.
Yeah,
I
that's
doubt it's.
Microsoft.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Series X one's been pushed back to August.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There you go.
I think Sony needs to make moves because they're playing price chicken, but I think they've got to do something. Yeah, so and The Last of Us hype's going to be useful for them. They might as well capitalize on it a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
anyway,
look, I've got one for you at the end of it. So yeah, let me know.
what I was going to do is just Sony being fined $3.5 million, which isn't much for Sony.
But this was for ACCC violations, wasn't it? So Australia local, that's Sony local. That's a big deal.
Imagine doing a podcast if you
Not
can't
be able
work.
to talk. I know, right?
Oh man. Anyway, so yeah, hang on. So Sony's been fined $3.5 million by the ACCC. Now that's nothing, but basically the reasons were, and sometimes these things set a precedent. So the amount's not as important as the fact that it is actually apparently on record as a thing. So refunds were denied. Basically, the ACCC took exception to Sony saying you couldn't get a refund after any digital download or after 14 days after a physical purchase of a game. Sony also said the refunds are dependent on the developer, which is interesting because then you wonder what the publisher is doing because the publishers kind of,
That's yep.
they shut down developers when they feel like. But anyway, and the refunds also. Now I'm not sure if this is true or not, but from what I understood from this, you could only get your refund in PlayStation Store credit.
Yes.
And you should be able to get a refund in the original purchase method.
Now I'm going to give you an interesting one. As somebody who buys a lot of stuff for events, and I'll buy a game because I know we'll need it for a showcase at an event, and I'll buy updated fighting games. So when Couch Warriors hire me for a gig, so all of that is true, right? If I don't buy it through PayPal, I don't technically get a tax invoice. Like, let that sink in. None of the sales you do through your credit card on your PSN give you a tax because you're technically buying it out of England. So you don't you don't get a tax receipt. Like if you search Nintendo, like if I go into my email address right now, like while I'm talking to you, I'll do it, right? If I go into my email address and I search Nintendo, it comes up with here's your tax invoice. So Nintendo, right? Nintendo. So if I do that, Nintendo eShop purchase. Let's go. No reply from accounts at Nintendo. Thank you for your eShop purchase. Tax invoice date. Yada yada yada. Right? If I do the same for Sony, it does not say the words tax invoice, and if it does, it's only been recent. Like
really.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Thank you for your purchase. Thank you for your purchase. Blah blah blah. Order number. It doesn't give you a tax invoice number. It gives you an order number. Right? So it doesn't actually give you a tax invoice. So for purposes of tax, you have to argue in thing, and then you're getting tax agents looking at your shit. Yeah.
But even for tax, I mean, okay, they're selling it out of another country. Oh, that's no. I'm not entirely sure you can do that anyway. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't do it.
So
My
yeah,
company.
thank you for your order number, but then you don't get a tax invoice to say that
I have
you've
an
technically
address
paid
in
for
the
it.
US that I have for
Yeah.
mailing things that I can technically use for the
Yeah.
business.
This
I
email has
can.
been sent on behalf of Sony Entertainment Europe. Limited company was in the United Kingdom with the registration number blah blah blah, and yeah. So
Okay, cool.
that has been something that I've always. So every time I buy something from like eShop, the Sony eShop or whatever the fuck they call themselves, I use PayPal because then I've got a receipt that shows that thing. Because yeah, so for example here I've got a copy of Watam that I bought. Right, cost me $30. I don't technically have an invoice for it. So when I go to claim it, any tax agent worth their salt can go, this ain't a fucking invoice. Like, where's the invoice? Show us that you paid the money. If I have PayPal, I can literally just go, here's my history. Like, fuck off. But like, yeah. So, just be mindful. If you do Sony stuff for Thing, you might have a bit of a sticky point with that. Whereas Microsoft and Thing, Microsoft will list everything that you have by transaction, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm looking at it now. Your Microsoft order, and then like it has like see they do order number as well. But I know if you contact them, they will email you all of your tax data.
Yeah, there's
So
like 6
yeah,
things you need for it to be a legal,
yeah,
excuse me, a legal tax invoice. But anyway, look, that's interesting. I didn't know that. But anyway, Sony got
yeah,
fined. The main thing is it's about a refund. Now, ACCC famously a few years back did that to Steam,
yeah,
which is good. But what that does is aside from the $3.5 million, which Sony's probably going to be able to afford,
yeah, yeah. I think they'll find that. They'll find that in the couch cushions.
they can probably do that. It is basically setting the standard though, and so the ACCC with this is basically saying, no, this guys is how it's supposed to work. So the money is nothing. The money like 3.5 billion might notice, but not 3.5 million. Unless I've written it down wrong, I read M for B, but anyway.
No, it's pretty
So
sure it's
yeah,
M. Like yeah, I mean,
yeah.
there's no way ACCC like charging billions of dollars. No, thank you. Like it's not gonna happen.
No, that's true. Yeah. Anyway, next one. Okay. Apparently, 25 Electronic Arts games are coming to Steam.
I think they already started, haven't they?
Or are in Steam. Well, one of them, it's
Yeah.
actually two of them. Two of them I thought was really interesting. Now, they haven't done the big ones yet. They haven't done Sims, Apex Legends, Battlefield, right?
Mm.
Um, they have done Plants vs Zombies: Battle for Neighborville, and I'll tell you why I reckon that is in a sec. And also CNC remastered Command and Conquer.
I think that they've used that as the platform for that. They've gone, hey, here's CNC remastered. Remember EA were a thing. Buy our other games. Like, yeah.
Yeah, well, if I can get my current workload out of the way, I'll be hopping onto that and just pretending that I'm
Tactically minded, yeah.
No, I tell you what, I'm more tactically minded than my freaking Tiberian harvester that just wanders over. Oh, look, the enemy!
he's having fun. He's enjoying
Hug
himself.
me.
Yeah.
Give me a hug, Stank. No, so anyway, hopefully they fix that. But no, so anyway, now and Battle for Neighborville, I reckon they've done because if I don't know if you played it recently, they've added AI characters in all the servers, so they're padding the servers.
Oh, really? I haven't
Which is
seen that. No.
it's a really bad sign. Because it means the servers are dead.
Yeah.
So because you'll go in, there'll be 3 human players, and basically the rest will just be called pea shooter and corn, whatever it is. And so basically they're padding them out. And I reckon they've done that move because they need people on it, and they do because it's a better game when there is. But it also
It's
makes
such a good game. It's so criminally underrated as an easygoing, especially for family men like yourself. It's such an easygoing, easy to play shooter.
Yeah, no, it is. It's great. In fact, it's probably at the tail end of that for me and my son. My son's at the point now. When you start when your kids are little, and when you start when your kids are little, right? You give them the controller that's not plugged in, so that they can feel like they're playing, and you're actually playing, and they don't stuff you up. We're actually getting to the point now. My son's old enough that he's at the point where he'll give me the controller not plugged in virtually, so that it don't muck up his game. So, but Plants vs Zombies has seen us through a lot of gaming together. It is a game that I always enjoyed because it teaches the first person shooter concepts, but in an environment, in a presentation that wasn't how would you put it, the online environment was not very toxic.
Yeah.
It was okay for young kids to hop on. My son would be on with a little microphone talking, and the kids were generally excited and talking and all that. There wasn't the same stuff you get in the older games, but also there's not blood and heads being blown off, stuff like that. I know it's stereotype to say, but it's in an environment where they can learn how to play the different classes in a first-person shooter in a safe way. And in fact, Minecraft Dungeons is another example of something like that, which I think you're learning the Diablo style.
Yeah.
Not that Diablo is bad in any way, but
Well, I mean, it's the originator of the Skinner box game. You could argue that a lot of the loot boxing we have today is just the foregone conclusion of what Blizzard originally did. But I'm not quite so cynical.
Yeah, well, it's just a game that is because we had a little bit of a drought after Skylanders and Disney Infinity left the market, where basically the younger gaming was left to the iPads, which is really, if you talk Skinner boxing, so that's predatory, that stuff on there. Whereas it's good to see there are games that are still for the younger market that they can play, and they're setting their skills up and their way of playing for the older games. And that's why that's why I was always a fan of Plants for Zombies. Although now when I say that, my son's playing Division, so
look, it's a historical documentary at this point.
It is. It's a Division is real life now. But anyway, look, a question about EA games. The EA games coming to Steam. Is that EA admitting Origins also?
Origin's dead. Yeah, I think it'll be like Uplay, where you can buy it through Origin, you can access it through this, but there's just too much money going missing for them to not do it through Steam. You'll probably still have to sign into an Origin ID. You'll probably still have to do all that kind of stuff, and people don't mind that as long as it's integrated into the existing game as much. Like with Xbox, technically you have an Origin ID because you have an Xbox Live account. Every Xbox Live account gets given an Origin ID that doesn't necessarily have any information, but it just says, such and such player, their account is, it can be a string of numbers. So you get all our allocated one. Like I was playing Warzone the other day, the Call of Duty game. I was playing on PC. I got none of my unlocks because it's tied. My Xbox One is just tied to the generic one they gave me. And I'm sure I could log in, and I'm sure I could do all that. But I'm like, I kind of don't care. And it's fine. Like the setups that I have on Xbox are less aim intensive than the ones that I'd have on PC anyway. So it works out to segregate them a little bit. Just comes down if you're going to buy battle passes and stuff. But yeah, I think it's them acknowledging that Origin, like the idea of separate launches, is just not going to work. And so they're licking their wounds and saying, well, it's better we make money than not money, and they're releasing on thing. I wonder how far it's going to extend. I doubt you'll see the EA Sports titles hit PC eventually. It'd be too easy to scam on PC. It's easy enough it is on Xbox to scam people out of it. But I mean, FIFA makes some money, but FIFA Ultimate Club, Ultimate Team, whatever it's called, that makes some money. Like that's billions of dollars.
Yeah, well, if I wanted to play games using an under-featured launcher that adds no value, I'd use Epic Game Store.
Yeah.
So at the moment they're going in full bore against Steam, and you do find and this always amazed me in tech area, in a tech and an internet area, there's always scope for countless solutions. Problems that we always end up with two.
Yeah.
And that's just how it always works. And we have a look in politics, we always end up with two parties. Yeah. There's this thing that we can't think past that. It's very difficult for the majority of the population to not make a choice out of good or bad. So Epic and Steam's probably what's pushed it.
You got to remember as well that EA and Valve had run-ins for Orange Box when it was released on consoles. The Orange Box releases on consoles were flubbed. The PS3 version was all over the place because obviously no one programs for PS3. Xbox version was fine. Obviously you had your loading screens and stuff like that.
Look, the loading screens were a pain, but I played Orange Box. Well, that was where I first played those games. Portal and Half-Life, which was on Orange Box. I didn't play the other one, but the Xbox version was fine. There's a few loading delays, but I can put up with that for a long game. But geez, it was good.
But the PS3 version was just balked from day dot, and that was EA handling the conversions. Like they did the porting for it, and it kind of left a bad taste in gaming's mouth. If you look it up, it was that. And Valve has I don't know if you know about Valve, but they got a pure flat structure. No one is anyone else's boss. Like it's literally people work on projects they want to work on, kind of thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they have a pure flat structure. It's why nothing ever gets done there. If you're a Dota fan, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's IceFrog. IceFrog is basically his only job is doing Dota, and I think he still loves it after all this time, and he's just been doing it. But let's say as part of his job at Valve, he didn't want to work on Dota anymore. He could just move on to another project, or start a new project. And that's how the company works. And to be like, oh, too bad, so sad. Someone's got to do Dota. Let's see if someone wants to do it. Because that's how it works. No one is anyone else's boss. So as long as you report your figures and you report how you're going to fix problems, they don't care.
I thought they had the policy that as soon as a game gets with the number 3 on the end, that they show.
Yeah. Well, it's like again, if you get a triple kill in Dota, it's still one more than two. Like two, You have a
Yeah,
2+1 kill. Yeah.
self-awareness.
Well, I mean, look, when you got billions of dollars, when you're literally gaming, you can sit on your fat ass and make billions of dollars. You can be as self-aware as you want because ain't
I was going
nothing
to
ever
say,
gonna touch you.
nobody's the boss. It's a flat structure, but
It's
one
a
of them
flat structure. They get salary, they get shares, and yeah, yeah.
one of them has a lot of money.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, it's
yes.
always funny when you look at Gaben's story. He started at Windows and he wanted to do this, and they didn't want to let him do it. And then he decided, well, I'm going to go fucking start my own thing. And then, I mean, everyone forgets the growing pains that Steam had to start with, but Steam was definitely not as user friendly and nice as it is now. It's where it is now because people fought hard. Never forget that. Never forget anything in this life that was worth having has been fought for. And just don't betray the fight. And that's why EA have even gone fuck it. Like, time to let bygones be bygones, guys. So yeah.
Yeah, well, nothing worth having is easy to get.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. Well, I've got two more,
Yeah.
and they're going to be heavy. So I'll warn you that now, and
All right.
potentially controversial, because I haven't spoken about these things before. But I'm going to go. I'm going to go into. You got anything you want to get out of the way, or do you want to wait until
The only
you
one I saw,
potentially lighten up?
the only one I quickly want to cover is that I remember we've mentioned before how the super fast SSD is only going to be used by first party developers.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the Ori devs. So the Ori devs have come out and said the same thing. It's like PS5 super fast SSD. It will be nice for first party titles, but multi platinums will be developed for the lowest common denominator. It's PS3 era. Yeah.
Well, I mentioned that last. I mentioned that last week. Yeah, because they were making a condition that it had to run on both. If you were third party.
So he's saying that it's great that they've got this SSD, but like, old mate said, Tom Marler said, I would be shocked if most third party developers would not just develop their games for the lowest common denominator, i.e., Xbox and PC. I mean, there's literally zero chance the levels get changed just because the PS5 can load faster, simply because it's way too expensive and work intensive to do it. So it's like it's the PS3 problem. It's like it's great that you've got this hardware, and for its time, this is a fantastic platform. But no one's going to develop. No one's going to use this as a primary development tool. And yeah, so that was just one that I saw interesting there because I thought it was just me talking crazy, but no, it's not. So.
Well, the fast hard drive is exciting if we can have ports of old CD games like Microcosm and that.
Yeah, yeah.
Other than that, everything else we talk about is cloud, different platforms, all that stuff. All right, cool. Let's get heavy. All right. now, and I'm going to preface this by saying that this first article, I believe it's not a bad thing, but EA and a lot of other companies have come out and based on recent, not based on recent events, but probably coming at some point, they've said they're going to work harder to combat racism in their games with better filters, better reporting tools. But it does raise, I have some questions, and it's not about the aim of it, because a lot of these things, I think the aim sound, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to disagree with it for a second, so I want to make that clear up front. But I think there's the implementation is something that I would question, and the reason being, one of them, I can't remember which one, said that that they're going to ban the use of the N word in the game. Now, I've had the chat with my children and said, just don't use it. It's not worth it. It's your friends might find it funny, but the baggage that comes with it, it's not worth trying to explain to somebody that you didn't mean that, and a person hearing it may be genuinely upset, and you don't want to do that. So, so that's the chat we've had. So I have no issue with it, but I would. It does raise a question. It's a word used by its own community, so to speak, quite freely, and they own that word in many ways. Now, as a white person, I'm not going to say it. There's nothing to be gained from it. It's something I would avoid at all costs. But it is a word, I suppose, and I may say the wrong words here, and I apologise if it comes across insensitive, but it is a word they've appropriated for themselves. And you see, if you look at say Grand Theft Auto, it's heavily used, but you've got two black characters talking to each other. And I assume, and again, I'm a white person, I assume that's how they talk, right? So I'm going to assume if they.
Well, that's a different conversation about game writing.
Well, but what I'm getting at is if you have a blanket ban on a word, then there is a community that is entitled to use it, and there's a community that's not, and you don't know who is who, and so that's something I was going to raise. Now, the other one is you also have a very American excuse my cat. You also have a very American-centric view. Now, different countries have different histories, different, and also different insults. Now, if you look at the insults used, and I haven't seen any mention of this, if you have a look at the insults used in Australia, now our racism problem, and I'd call it our shame, is our indigenous community, whereas in America, their talk is about their descendants of their slaves, which for some reason their indigenous community never gets
Yeah,
brought
no one
up.
ever talks about the Native Americans, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but which I find that strange. But here it is. But the insults used for our indigenous community here are different to the ones that are used in America towards our African American community. So I would question there also, if this is an American centric way of looking at it, then it's not going to protect victims of racism in Australia necessarily.
Yeah.
Something so, and it's, to me, it's a little bit like, it's a great idea, but the implementation coming out of one part of one country in the world may leave a little bit to be desired. There may be holes there, and there may be things picked up that aren't necessarily the same meaning. I can't think of an example, but every place in the world has, like I said, they have their own history, they have their own problems, and they have their own insults and everything. So there's going to be gaps there. So while I think it's a nice idea, if they're going to do it like, and you've seen how AI works in computers when they try and do things automatically, it's always getting things wrong. And if you're going to have things like banning and stuff like that, and you're going to have people potentially on say an Xbox, not directly linked to this, but if you get banned, you could lose access to the games you paid for. Then you want to get these things right. And if you don't get it right, you've got to have a review and appeal process, which gets a bit messy. I understand, but it's a little bit treating us all like we're an American, and the problems that are in America are the same everywhere else. They are subtly different, but it's something that I think video game companies need to consider. Cause is good. The goal is good, but blanket decisions shouldn't be made treating the entire world as one place.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of the reverse of it, because like, as much as there are again, when a lot of the tech companies that are making these decisions are from America, they deal with a lot of American sensibilities, and it's always based on that viewpoint. And while obviously a lot of these systemic issues aren't unique to America by any stretch, the terminology and the phrases used are almost uniquely American, and the viewpoint is almost uniquely American. What's Holland has the black kid they dress up as at Christmas time, who's like the helper of Santa Claus and all this kind of silliness, and it still stems from like a different kind of racist history. Do you know what I mean? But it's not trying to invoke the same thing as blackface, so it needs to be treated differently if you want to explain why it's a bad thing. Do you know what I mean? Like it can't just be the same blanket kind of mindset taken to try and combat it. Like obviously there's things that are similar, and it's still stemming from a similar place, but I don't think it has the same like tones like that originate it. I mean, again, I just think it's going to be tough, and I'm glad that they finally said that they're going to try and do something about it, because for a long time I think they did nothing. But I'm with you. I wonder what tools they're going to wield to do it. I worry that there's no easy way to do it.
No, because if you look at how policing is done in the real world, that's another issue.
Yeah, I mean, look.
I would say people need to trust the police. They don't need to trust rioters and protesters, but they do need to trust the police.
Yeah, I mean that's always been that thing of like, oh, but why aren't we holding the protesters the same example? It's like because we don't pay them to be like,
we don't rely on the protesters to keep us safe from very bad people.
Correct.
So we do need, and that's the same goes with priests. It goes with anyone in authority. Yeah. We need to trust the people with the uniform on, and so they do need to be happy. Anyway, so let's move on. What was I going to say? So the policing. Okay, in the real world, policing is done there's a lot of police. There's a couple levels as well. There's different types of police for different types of things. There's also courts, and there's a lot of different levels of courts. So there's judges, and so there's not always a jury, but then there's juries in other cases, and so on. So you've got a very elaborate legal system to hold society together. Now, online societies, they're trying to do it without. Now, you think of what it would cost for a country to maintain a functioning legal system, from the police investigations all the way up to Supreme Court sort of setup, right? Online, they're trying to do it automatically. And there's been people trying to suggest they can do it in real life automatically, which would be a disaster, it'd be a hellscape if they tried. but they're just trying to avoid the cost of doing it. Now, if you think of how many police there are in a normal society for per population, how many judges, how many online, you've got a billion people or 700 million people using Twitter, and there's like how many people policing them, and they're not policing most of their computers, right?
Or they're handing it off to people in third world countries who won't even understand the social cues or have to watch kiddies getting stomped because white people don't want to see it. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah, and it's and they're using so they're using a checklist of what they're looking for in that. So it's a far from an ideal situation. So if we want to have these, if we say in normal society, well, killing people's wrong, and so we've got this very elaborate system set up to deter it, and then find out who it is, then punish them, give them the right to appeal, because you have to give it a right to appeal, because the police don't always get it right, because it's all human. If we make AI, I don't think the AI is going to get it right, because AI is still made by human. But that's a philosophical thing that I'm happy to debate another time. So our expectations, I think, are out of whack here. Where it was online, they just go, "Oh, we're just going to ban this word." Right, and there's no context. There's no, like I said, if there's African Americans can use it to each other all day, and they have the right to own that. But like I said, us two have no right to, and would never do it, right? Yeah. So you got no context there, and they don't know who you are. So these are things where, if you look in the real world, what's been set up to maintain, some semblance of law and order. Online, they're just doing everything to avoid it. They have these aims, they have these noble goals they want to do, but they still don't want to put any money or manpower into it, which they have to do.
And the flip side of it is, a lot of this stuff, the old joke about hiding your power level. These people find another way to say that same. It's like Louis C.K. before the fall from grace had a reasonable point when he said, like, if you say the N word, like, you're making me do the math in my head. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're making me say this. It's replaced that word, and I get that it doesn't have the same pointedness to it, but it's that thing of, it still means what it means. Like, what you're saying means X. It's just not the explicit word. It
still gets said out aloud in your head, and that's like, I've always had that problem with beeping. When they beep things on TV show and there's a swear word, right? That swear word still got said in my head.
So I'm not gonna lie, I prefer beeping because I enjoy that more than hearing Americans swear.
It's a comedy. It's a comedy thing.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed.
If you say N word, and I've said he, but no, I am honestly, I'm loath to say the full words. I'm not.
No, don't, and that's that's what I mean. I think there's absolutely no reason to say.
No right to.
But at the same time, like, it is that thing of, these people will find these coded words to do it. They will find another way to say it, whether that's just being the edgy bullshit that they're doing, or whether it is because they mean it from that core, I'm actually like a white supremacist against this. But it'll be the spectrum of that. But there will always be something that they'll use to code it. So I don't know how I think with you go back to the police issues, a lot of the problems that you're talking about still come back from, like, influencing culture. And if we're not going to influence culture and be proactive, then we can't be reactive, because we're just never going to stem the tide. And that's where a lot of that comes from.
Well, the same problem's been going on for my entire lifetime.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not trying to handwave it. I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm going to say, if we're not going to put the hard work into being proactive, and that's where I hope these companies do that. They actually are proactive about it, and they actually find ways to make it less about reactive policing of it, because you'll never stem the tide. How hard is it to set up another anonymous email account and just start posting shit again? Anyone who's been on a Twitch chat, you know what I mean? Like, it's easy to do. You need to find ways to stem that culture from, like, to build that culture from the get-go. Like, yeah.
I believe you tackle it through politicians and media first.
I agree, and so I definitely agree. But it becomes that thing of, like, I wish them luck, but I agree with you. I worry that I don't know how they're going to do it effectively, and I'd rather be pleasantly surprised. So yeah.
And I also don't like the idea that we're all supposed to adopt American sensibilities. Now, I know Scott Morrison said something along those lines. I got hammered for it, and but yeah, there is a American. It's part of the American hegemony that's we have to adopt.
Well, and it's also, again, we like we've said at the start, we have our own issues with these problems to begin with. Like, we can't ignore them. They're just slightly different. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the same.
They're going to be different in every country.
Exactly. It's going to have its own thing on it, and I don't think the tools that are effective in one area is going to be effective in the other.
But
Yeah,
I think a lot of consultation should be done, not
yeah,
just with the people they're trying to protect, but also with the gaming community about what's realistic.
yeah,
Because that's something that never gets asked. The gamers get told to shut up. But I think it is worth saying to gamers, look, okay, what is realistic? How can we police you? Like,
yeah, yeah.
help us, help you, sort of thing. But the gamers are an important part that's left out. But anyway, good luck to them. But I do worry about the implementation.
Yeah.
Now, okay, next one. Are you got anything to add there?
No. I think we've covered it all there.
I'm sure somebody will take offence to something I've said. I don't mean any offence. I'm, and if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be corrected on that. Okay, next one. And now this is an opportunity that I want to say, and this is something that is again related because I've been thinking about this all week, and I think everybody has. Now, Cringy, he does, as you know, I'm a big fan of Cringy.
Yeah,
He did an interview with a lady called Phoebe Watson
yeah,
about 6 months ago after GCAP 2019 and she did a talk there about indigenous games.
yeah,
And so it's something I've always thought for a while now. Our games are dominated by American culture and
yeah.
typically violent gun American culture. In fact, Last of Us 2 would have a lot of American sort of ways of doing things in it. I think
Yes, but I would say the difference there is that it grounds itself in that setting, as opposed to when they do fantasy settings. Even their kind of their bigger fantasy settings still have those American sensibilities, and I think that's where they fall down. But I definitely understand where you're coming from.
So games reflect the culture. And Witcher was it's a Polish
Yeah,
mythology, isn't it?
yeah,
Which is interesting when everybody was bagging it for different reasons. I don't know if you've ever met Polish people,
yeah, yeah,
but it's no. So you got so the games reflect the place they're made, and this is where look, and this is why I went back and watched Cringy's interview again. I recommend anybody do go to newgameplus.tv or YouTube and chase up Cringy's interview with Phoebe Watson, because it is interesting, but it just scratches the surface. But basically, she was talking about getting traditional Australian Indigenous stories into games, and she's saying how they have to be reframed; they can't be directly put in. She mentioned there needs to be a lot of collaboration between game developers and Indigenous communities. On the Indigenous community side, there's a bit of mistrust, and she's the example. You got boomerangs made in China, so they don't want their culture appropriated and cheapened or homogenized for profit, which is no risk because most video game indie devs in Australia probably don't make a lot of profit
yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
But she said there are some projects trying to bring Indigenous culture into video games, but not many, and a lot of them mostly made in schools and places like this.
Yeah.
And also brought up that there are a lot of different, like we see our Indigenous population as an Indigenous population, generally how it's discussed, but there are a lot of different communities in there. So there's a lot of difference there. And again, if I've got this wrong, I apologise. Hope it's not. Now, so I watched that again. I thought that's interesting because I think this is something for the Australian development community, and I am 100% sure the Australian video game development community would be on board with this, because my dealings with them suggest that this would be something that they'd be across or okay with. If games can capture and reflect and in a way preserve culture, then I think I'd love to see in Australia a real push and the government get behind it as well with funding to bring as much Indigenous stories into games made in Australia as possible, and basically as a way of bringing that then into the land rooms and the computers of gamers here as well. And it does.
I think we talk about preservation of culture. If anything, it's one of those examples. Do you know what I mean? Like it's exactly a good chance to go. Here is taking these traditional things and making them relevant to a modern. I mean, there's no reason that these mythologies can't be up there with Norse and all that kind of stuff. It's just that the majority of the people driving the culture are driving Norse mythology or driving X mythology. But at the same time, you don't want it to be bastardized. You don't want it to be, how cool are Native Americans, bro? You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, well, yeah. See, Native Americans, most people only know cowboy and Indian movies
Yeah.
if they're growing up. So, and that's where that's why there's probably a bit of mistrust as mentioned again. I may have this wrong, but I do think it's something that I just hope I'd like to see. Now the government won't take interest, this current government, because video games aren't made of coal, so they don't give a shit. But I would like to see some sort of push to do that, and it doesn't have to be overt and sort of in your face. But to bring is like in how there's you have to show a certain amount of local content on TV. Bring a certain amount of that culture into our games.
Well, they just got rid of that requirement, by the way. I'd like to point out that the Liberal government, in all of their wisdom, have
Of
decided that
course
we've
they
to do it.
did.
Yeah.
Of course they did.
Yeah,
I'm
so
not.
they're cancelling C31, which obviously reaches out to, and it's not as much Indigenous, though Mara and Brooks did start on
Margaret,
C31.
Margaret is so superior to any other. Oh, actually, front bar is funny, but it's so superior to something like the footy show is not
Yeah.
funny. And this is, I'll get worked up here because this is something I've been worked up with about for years. If you watch Channel 7, you look at the footy commentators, they're all just massive dickheads, right? I go over and
Brian Taylor exists between two states of mind.
Brian,
Oh, big boy, and calling Richo gay. It is literally his two things. That's all he ever does. He's implied that Richo's gay. Big boy. That's it.
he has no talent, right?
Yeah.
But I go over to Mongrel Footy Show, and they are genuinely entertaining, insightful,
And I guess earnest. They actually care about the game. It's not just this kind
yeah.
of.
And I
Yeah.
can't work out why none of them. They had is it Gilbert McAdam on for a little while as a boundary rider, but these guys they are already skilled in media performance because they're already doing it. They've been doing it for years. I cannot understand why none of them on Channel 7. But anyway, but the AFL does go on about how they're trying to stamp out racism. How about look at your own freaking commentary teams, guys? Anyway, where was I going with that? With the footies, the commentators. I think there's an opportunity here. I think I would like to see the Australian video game development community, and I think they would really make a big effort and say, let's preserve some Indigenous culture and let's get some Indigenous culture in front of people because I think video games are a really effective way to do that. There's a lot of stories to be told, and I don't know a lot of it because let's be honest, none of us were really taught much of this in school. Video games is a way to get in front of a lot of people. So I'd like to see that as something that we really make an effort to do.
I know there's local devs that have some stuff. I know Big Ant are looking at a specific role hired in that space and things like that. And so it never let it be like for all the shit I give Twitter, there are some good people in the local scene, like 100%.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, none of them like me, but I'm sure there's a lot of.
Well, look, again, to me, it's one of those things where it's like, as long as they're fighting the good fight, they can hate my guts. I couldn't give a fuck. Like, it just doesn't register on my radar or something to care about. As long as they're fighting the good fight and it's for the right outcome, then whatever, man. We'll get along just fine as long as you stay in your side of the room and I'll stay in mine. But I think there are people working towards it. And I know with the recent there was the bundle for BLM. I know there was a lot of Australian games in that as well. So, there definitely is that awareness, and obviously, it's the Twitter sphere, so that's where a lot of devs live. So they definitely across it. But I agree with you. I think it would be good to see a bigger push on that. But I mean, you can't get them to give random middle upper white devs development money at the moment. So good luck getting them to give it to some Indigenous devs.
Yeah, well, I know. I'm sure the current Australian government's. They do have a.
Yeah, we fucked up real bad last May. That's all I'll say to everyone is like, you all fucked up real bad because I can tell you, one me voting Liberal. So.
Yeah, no, they do have a colour chart where they decide where money goes. They also have a bank balance chart to decide where money goes.
Anyway. And the bank balance chart and they both exist in tandem. They're different things, but they're still usually geared towards the same outcome, and that's making sure that the North Beaches get a rowing club, like a $200,000 rowing club.
They're not directly related, but unfortunately they are related. Now, anyway, look, so that's my little thing. I've been thinking about that from last week because I didn't want to say anything early. I wanted to give it some thought, but I think that's something that maybe there is a lot of work being done. I'm not aware of it, but I think it is something that if we got a change of government, hopefully they put some money in because they were keen on putting money into gaming, unlike this current mob. And so look, I think that's just something that would make an effort, record some Indigenous culture, record some Indigenous stories, bring it into everybody's games.
Yeah.
I think you would find if you do it well, and this is always a problem with political stuff, not done well, it's grating, but done well done well, people will absorb it, and
I,
that's what you want people to absorb it. You want people to welcome it into their brain.
my argument, because I've never liked the idea that X can't write Y person. I think that's a silly thing to take, but I think that if X is going to write Y person, X person needs to be either consulting with that, like with people in that situation, or have lived it enough that they can confidently do it without it being tropey and all that kind of stuff. Like a lot of these things, it's like we need more representation of this, and we absolutely do. But it needs to be good. It needs to be entertaining, because if it's crap, then it's just going to like solidify that, oh, you can't tell X stories on TV because every X story that's been told has been shit ass. And it's like, well, no, it was just written badly. Like, that's not their fault. You know what I mean? Like,
It emboldens the people who are looking for it to fail.
yes,
Same, which I mean, maybe I'm a hypocrite. I was looking for Last of Us 2 to fail because it'll be funny. But no, if you do a bad job, you open the door for people to go, see, that's why we don't do it. And
yeah,
so
exactly, yeah,
it's difficult. But look, I've like I said, from what I've any dealings I've had with the Australian development community, they would be on board with this if they're not already. And I just think it's something that really should be a push. We have a lot of discussion about what we can do. It's just something I thought, yeah, in this area, maybe that's something we can do, and then be a lot of consultation, a lot of talking needs to be done, and then say, let's get these stories out there. Let's preserve a culture that our mining companies are trying to destroy right now. And let's get it into people.
Look, yeah, you know me, I'm the biggest hat tippingest atheist in the world, right? But I think these parables, these early stories, they're important to know because it helps us frame how we've come to the common morality that we have. Do I believe any of it's true? Absolutely not. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to piss in people's pockets and pretend that I believe in their gods. I don't. It's just I just don't. But I still find it interesting to see how these stories came to be, what they represent, what parable they represent, like their place. I still think all of that is absolutely fascinating. Like, I love even supernatural TV shows and supernatural books and you know, things that tie into this. And I think on that basis, it's interesting. Like, it's interesting to know that. And so as a result, like if that then, you know, drags people in and goes, oh yeah, cool, this is something that is interesting, that is something that is like it has an important thing to say about where our common morality came from, or where this branch of morality came from. You know, I think that's interesting. You know, like you know, how kosher and halal rules came to be and all that kind of stuff is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I still think that those stories need to be told because, you know, it is, you know, these imaginative parables, and I think that they definitely have something that's worth preserving on that basis. Like I say, we see so many random American stories. And unless you're going to make it about that, I'm just so sick of that American lens. It's always been my least favorite thing about the current world.
Yeah, and look, they're going to do it because that's what they do. If all the video games are made in India, they'd all be Indian stories,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Soon they'll all be Chinese stories, right? It's just, but that's just a natural thing. That's for what it is. But that's why I think here, I mean, we are going to have to punch a bit above our weight here because we are a small population.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think our video game dev community would welcome that challenge. But
Yeah.
done right, I think it'd be good, and I think it'd be a good service to
Yeah.
do. Hopefully I got it all wrong. If I've said anything wrong, I'm happy to be corrected. But yeah, it's just what something I'd like to see done.
Yeah.
So, so I'm done now. I'm out of stuff.
I'm good too. The only thing I've got is, you know, if you haven't written your local member of parliament, make sure you write them and hassle them about 631. It's been in Parliament today, and Paul Fletcher's basically turned around and said, "Oh, we've given them, 6 years to do it." Well, yeah, 6 years with 2 cancellations in that time, with no money. Like they gave us I think it was $90,000, and then the app, like the basic maintenance of the servers cost minimum that if you don't want to use YouTube infrastructure. And then
that'll buy you 90,000 episodes of New Game Plus.
Yeah.
Now production budget.
Yeah. And like it is that thing of. It's just a bloody mindedness. It's just that we're going to deliver this. We didn't think we'd get the chance to deliver it. We thought Labor would be in. We thought that they would continue it on whatever. But while we can still prosecute our agenda, we're going to prosecute our agenda. If you're listening to this and you happen to be living in southern New South Wales and you're in Eden Monaro, make sure you do not vote Liberal or National, because that is going to be a huge tell-all sign for the thing to come. And I hope that the fury they maintain from the bushfires continues on, because you need to maintain the rage, because if we give them the 2-seat majority that they desperately need, goodbye Charlie, goodbye your working rights, goodbye everything. I'm about as apolitical as I get, i.e. very political. Just do not give them an inch or they'll take a fucking mile.
3 little letters, Jason. IPA. Be
Yep.
like golf. It's Google that if anyone's bored. Be
Oh,
like.
it makes me so. It just sums up. I read that and my eyes just like go searing white. Like
Yeah.
it's about as Super Saiyan as I get. These bastards to
There's,
anyway.
there's no, there's things going on there. Anyway, yeah, no, do that petition. Look,
Because they're trying to co-op Paul Keating at the moment. Makes me furious.
it's look thing with community TV, and I'm being very social justice warrior today, which is gonna upset.
Enjoy your Twitter follows, yeah.
But no, the no, the thing with community TV is it's the only place you'll get some content there that is for want of a better word, not straight white, right?
Yeah.
So
Lots of cultural shows, absolutely.
yeah, and for a long time before New Game Plus, there was a transsexual show on.
Yeah.
Apologies if I said that wrong, but that's what it was. And so basically, it would never have been on 7, 9, or 10, right?
Yeah.
No,
I assume you're talking
even
about
eight,
I assume you're talking about Bent TV.
yeah, I can't remember what it was. I turned on and just watch it for a little while, and while I was waiting for New Game Plus, and just sort of like, different people like different things. But the thing is, that's not going to appear anywhere else. So when you take, and this is probably why some people want to see community TV go, and that's because it gives content that commercial TV won't touch, but still has an audience, and those audiences deserve. I know they've got YouTube, and the Liberal government said they can just go on YouTube. That's the same thing. It's not really. It's not broadcasting at people's homes. It's not something that there's a different. We know from trying to transfer our audience. New Game Plus on TV has an enormous audience. Transferring it onto YouTube was a challenge. And you're seeing it now. Friendly Jordy's even having trouble as we're talking about transferring his YouTube audience onto Twitch, right? Audiences don't move. They are different audiences. They're there for different reasons. Now, community TV gives audiences that want that content that will never appear. It is not advertiser friendly, and it's not safe content for a commercial network. It gives a place for it to be, and those communities deserve that content. They deserve a place to be able to have it. And even if it's just to reaffirm them or just to have it so that it's there, I think is incredibly important. And that's why community TV. That's what community TV to me offers. Not the hey, Rove used to be on community TV. How good's that? I don't give a shit. It gives stuff that's never ever going to appear on a stuffy old TV channel. A place to be.
Yep, agreed 100%.
And video games is like that for a long time. And even now, how many video game shows are on commercial TV in the world? I mean, there can't be a dozen of them. It's like, so yeah, basically, but they'll be Married at First Sight and shit like that on, right? Which is just really going for lowest common denominator. But yeah, but when you look at some you call them marginalised or minority communities in the country, they deserve a place where they can watch shows made by them for them on TV. They deserve it, and that's where community TV is.
Yep. No disagreement here.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'll probably talked for about an hour. So
no, it's more than an hour. This is one of the longest podcasts we've done by
there we
far.
go.
By far.
We did some heavy stuff today. Sorry about that. Happy to receive any comments about that. I don't mind.
Yeah, Gerard's not precious, so.
Not precious at all. Probably going to surprise a few people with what I said, but there you go. So anyway, look, newgameplus.tv for everything. Jack is doing the winter series right now,
yes,
Monday night.
Yeah, I've got to get in touch with him actually after I hang up this call. So yeah,
definitely
the case.
And go check out Cringy's interview with what's her name again? Phoebe Watson. Yep. Go check it out. Is good, and I think it's a good path that the dev community can go down. Thanks, Jason. My cat's come back to annoy me.
Cat wants out. He's like, feed me already.
He wants food. He always wants food. I'm curious to see if I just gave him as much food as he asked for, how big he'd actually get. I might one day and see because yeah, I'll get to you. Anyway, all right. Well, thanks, Jason. I think that's it. So thanks everyone for listening. That was episode 51. We'll see everybody next week.